What are you waiting for? Are you being careful? Don't worry, I'm on the pill, honey.
Oh, how nice. It's better not to run any risk, though. That's my girl.
Hey, where do you think you're...
Just a minute, you'll see.
No! 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 No!
I was just joking.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Blood and Black Rum podcast. I'm Ryan from coldsploitation.com, and I'm joined with my co-host Martin.
How's it going?
We're doing pretty well. We are into the really hot throes of summer, at least around here. And so, you know what? That's kind of a perfect time to just take off all your clothes, strip nude, if you will, and get situated and comfortable for the hot summer weather. So that's what we're doing today.
If you have a nice leather, sofa, lay back on it naked and have your balls stick to it.
Yeah. Leather and sweaty bodies don't necessarily mix very well. But movies like the one that we're covering today would have you think otherwise, I think. No, go ahead. Be naked on that nice leather sofa. Yeah, we're actually talking about a movie that we planned to do, I think, a couple weeks ago, and for whatever reason, we had to change things up, and we did different movies. Instead, we did Uncle Sam last time because it was July 4th, and we wanted to make sure that we celebrated that holiday. So we kind of postponed this episode until we were able to fit it into the schedule. So again, today. Perfect time for it, and we're talking about a giallo, one that you had requested to cover another giallo film, because that's what the intention was for this podcast when we originally started it, was to kind of go and cover Italian films, giallo, spaghetti westerns.
I believe it's pronounced spaghetti westerns.
All those kinds of things, those fan favorites, cult films. And we kind of got away from that for a while, and we did superhero movies and things like that. So you thought it was time to kind of get back to the basics again and cover another giallo film, because we haven't done one in a while. I think the last one we did was Dario Argento's, right? And it was The Cat of Nine Tails. Is that right? I think that was the last one.
Isn't Alice Sweet Alice?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like a proto-giallo, like by the definition of it. No, it's not a giallo, but yes, it's similar. It got a similar style. So yeah, we could say that.
But I'm looking right now through the list of.
Yeah, I think the last actual giallo we did was The Cat of Nine Tails, Dario Argento's film, and then we did Alice Sweet Alice, which is kind of. I think we talked about that in the episode of how giallo-like it is, despite the fact that it's not necessarily Italian and doesn't meet the definition per se. For this movie, we wanted to do another giallo, and I specifically did not want to do a Dario Argento film because, well, we've done a number of Dario Argento's movies on here, some that are and some that aren't giallo films. And I just thought, instead of covering another one of his giallo films, we should look elsewhere. Another type of giallo film that we haven't, necessarily covered the stylistic elements of it. And so I thought, one that might be good to do, which is just has an eye-popping title, which, a lot of giallo films and spaghetti westerns too have a lot of like titles that kind of stand out, and they're like, whoa, you know what? That's an interesting title. I don't, I want to watch the film to understand why they came up with that title. And then you watch the film and you're like, oh, there's no reason for it. They thought it sounded cool. Yeah.
It's like the Japanese equivalent of like them just like throwing English words into a song,
random. Yep.
Like fairy, fairy, yeah. Woo! What's the song about? Baseball.
Exactly. So they tended to come up with some pretty cool names. They didn't necessarily have a basis in the film itself. Like didn't match the theme. This film is called Strip Nude for Your Killer, or also known in its native Italian as Nude per l'Assassino, which I think is a pretty cool, like, catchy name in itself, the Italian version of it. It kind of just stands out. But of course, again, Strip Nude for Your Killer, that sort of vague entendre of like it being sort of, is it a rapist? Is this another sex maniac sort of thing? Or is it someone who's, like making love before they're murdered? Like it kind of leaves that open to interpretation. So you're very pulled into it. And then not only that, but it has the obvious sexual connotations of a 1970s Italian film where you're like, oh yeah, this is going to have a nice amount of nudity in it. Some titillation. I think that it just works as a title. Whether it actually makes sense in terms of the film's thematic elements is kind of open for interpretation or for people to come to agreement with. But I think as a whole, the idea of this movie and the name of it is pretty arresting. And it's always stuck out to me. So I thought that would be a fun movie to do. And not only that, it's directed by Andrea Bianchi, who we have not covered on here before, but he has, he did work in Italian film on quite a few movies, cult film of the cult film nature, basically. And, movies that we probably will or should cover at some point in time. The one that stands out to me the most, which I have seen and it's pretty bonkers, is Burial Ground. He directed that one as well. And that one is a very strange movie that has a lot of the same kinds of elements that this one has, where it will shoehorn in like weird sexual elements and connotations that don't necessarily add to the plot, but they're just kind of there. That's another one to watch at some point. Not as giallo, but definitely an interesting movie all the same. But he did work on a number of different giallo films and erotic movies, basically. That was kind of like his thing. So I thought it'd be interesting to cover one of his giallo films for the podcast, because we've never done that before. Another movie that he did that with the title that really stands out is What the Peeper Saw, which I think is a really interesting title for a movie like this, for such as this as well. Again,
fun fact that I didn't know about until like a couple of years ago. A couple of people when I first started at my job called me peepers.
Oh, because your glasses
would fog up, yeah.
Yeah.
And me peeking over my glasses.
Peepers.
Call me peepers.
That's cool. It's sort of like akin to I don't know, like a Trailer Park Boys nickname or something. That's what it reminds me of.
Bubbles and peepers.
Yeah, like a Bubbles sort of thing. But yeah, cool. Had you heard of, know about anything about Strip Nude for Your Killer?
No, not at all.
Never even heard the title at all?
No.
It's not, like, again, it is actually a pretty well recognized giallo film, because there's, there were like, 200 giallo films that came out in the era. And so a lot of them are obviously ones that are very minor and not really well recognized. Strip Nude.
I thought you were going to say in 1974 alone. These fucks really pumped out 200.
Not that many, but yeah, there were quite a few at the time. A lot of them kind of went under the radar, to the point where Vinegar Syndrome has actually even been releasing like Forgotten Gialli, which is like a series of a collection of films where they're like giallos that people have never heard of before. Strip Nude for Your Killer is not one of those. And I think the biggest reason for that is not the content itself, but just the name. But it is pretty widely recognized film. And not only that too, but it also, because it has Edwige Fenech in it, who was basically what you would consider, we have scream queens right now for slashers. While in giallo films and Italian films, Edwige Fenech would have been your giallo queen, because she was in a large number of them.
Tits out all the time.
Yes, and not just giallo films, of course. But again, yes, she was a 70s beauty, often nude, and would show up in many of these types of films, whether they be giallos or just straight horror movies or zombie movies. She was in a lot of them. So yeah. Anything else you want to add about Strip Nude for Your Killer in this introduction before we move on?
Yeah, just that I was. This is a prime example of why the podcast started. No idea of the film's existence, didn't know it existed at all, didn't know, anything about it. And so it was a nice, pleasant surprise to stumble into, because anytime we do Italian films, they're always very, very, very hit or miss. So,
right,
going in blind was refreshing.
Exactly. It's always the best way to do it for these types of movies. All right, let's talk about the beer that we have on the show today. It was your turn to pick it out. Why don't you give us, your thought process in picking out the beer that we have today?
So here in lovely upstate New York, it has been hell's bells hot. It's been a never-ending, miserable, nonstop, 80s and up, humid misery. If I wanted this weather, I'd live down in the Everglades. I'd probably be in Alligator Alcatraz right now. But alas, it's made its way up into the Adirondacks. So, what is something that's supposed to refresh you on days like today?
Lemonade.
Nice, light, fruity beers. And one of the staples of that style of nice, refreshing, hot as balls summer beers is the Shandy, or if you're Canadian, Radler. Now, I got us a Shandy.
Yeah.
And it's from a brewery that's from local. Had their beers on here a billion times. FX Matt Brewing, aka Saranac. And they have, for the first time in I feel like 15 years, released a Shandy. Because they used to, way back in the day, if you remember, and they still used to do 6 beers in a variety pack. Like, they had a half a Weizen and a Shandy during the summer. But it's back. And I am pleasantly surprised. Because even though we have critiqued and over the years said that they've come the way of Sam Adams, and their beer being lesser quality, more, pumped out to the masses. They're basically, New York Sams, except at a much smaller scale. This is refreshing and damn good. It has a big lemoniness to it, very bright, very crisp and refreshing. The lager itself goes down easy, very smooth. The one thing I'll say it is that it is kind of really sugary. Even though you get that nice crisp lemoniness, it does kind of taste corn syrupy. But I do like it a lot. I think this is a good Shandy. It's been a long while since I've had Leinenkugels or something, but I would recommend this if it's, you want something crisp and refreshing and you're going on the boat out on one of the lakes and you want to cool off, damn good beer to have with you. So,
yeah.
It a lot.
I would agree. I mean, we don't generally have a lot of Radler styles on here. But again, we do really like a Shandy. I think, there's a couple ways that you could do a Shandy, right? You just do a straight pour of beer and lemonade. Or you can get one that's already pre-mixed, which is, basically what this Saranac Shandy is. It's a lager and a lemonade. I don't know if Saranac makes their own lemonade. I do know they make a lot of other beverages. They make like a root beer. They make like a Shirley Temple soda. And I don't like it would kind of make sense if they had a lemonade themselves, but I don't really know. But anyway, this is basically their lager mixed with lemonade. And I think it tastes really, really good. It's very, sometimes you can get a shandy that has a very, very artificial over the top lemon flavor to it. And I don't think this shandy really has that. It's got a nice solid base of lager, very drinkable, very sessionable. At the same time, it does have that nice lemonade, lemony flavor to it. Again, the lemon is not super watered down. It's definitely there. It's definitely a lemonade-y style. Like you said, there may be some artificiality to it in terms of like, it's not like a straight, just lemons and sugar. There's probably a bit of added artificial lemon flavor to this. But I don't think it's too awful. I think that doesn't really come out too much in it, and it doesn't, make it too saccharine, I don't think. It is sweet, but I think when you're drinking something like a lemonade, you are expecting a bit of sweetness, like even a straight lemonade can really give you a toothache sometimes. So I'm not really too concerned about the overall sugariness of it. I think that it's really, really solid, for somebody who's looking to suck some down and, after you've been mowing or something. This is another great pick. Just like, we've had a couple of lime beers on here recently. This is another one of those ones that you could grab and just really go to town, especially to quench your thirst on a really hot day. Really, really happy with this. Now, I know, I think Saranac used to make shandies, right? I think you said that they did used to make it, and I feel like I've had it in the past, but I don't have any record of actually having one.
Like I said, it's been so long. I think I remember it appearing in like their summer pack back in like 2012, where it was like that, a Hefeweizen, like a banana lager, and Adirondack lager and something else.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've had it, but I don't really recall. So it's nice to come back to and have a nice Saranac shandy that doesn't necessarily ring any bells for me. So. Really good. I would definitely recommend it, especially, this came in a straight 12-pack of Shandy. Is that right?
Yes.
And I think does it come in their summer pack this year as well?
I believe so.
I think it does, yeah. So, couple ways to get it. Definitely recommend. Keep an eye out for it. All right, let's talk about Nude per l'Assassino. One thing I'll point out right away that I think is really cool is in the credit sequence for this movie, the actual title credit I think is awesome. You have like it doesn't read Nude per l'Assassino like on the poster artwork. It says Nude X l'Assassino. I think just the design of that looks really cool in the credit sequence. I don't know if you agreed, but I just thought like the way that it pops up and kind of gets stamped down. I thought it was a cool little addition there.
Yeah, it's definitely better because the Italian poster makes it look like it's like an episode of the A-Team.
like the busty, the busty episode of the A-Team.
Mr. T gets feelings he didn't know he had.
Mr. T's still in it because he does have some big memories, but and then three women. It's like a Charlie's Angels sort of thing, Which yes, again, even from the poster artwork, you realize that this is probably going to be something of a lurid affair. It makes no bones about putting that out there.
Even the trailer out on IMDb is literally nothing but tits. Like, what was this like only shown in like grindhouse like theaters?
IMDb can barely have it on there for fear of having to put an NSFW stamp on their website.
or like I was gonna say, like grindhouse or like porn theaters, because to people, this film is basically a softcore porn.
Yeah. I mean,
it's
I mean, all giallo films to some extent have some nudity and sexuality to them, but not to this extent. Not to
this entire film. Everyone's in their bra and panties the entire time.
So
for no reason.
I mean, would you say based on the title that it suitably gets your expectations up for what you're about to witness?
Well, if it's the Italian version, Nude for the Assassin, then yeah. Strip Nude for your killer?
Not as much. It's not like the killer in this movie is literally demanding walking into the apartment. You lose those clothes.
Like a glory hole, and they're looking through like a peeping Tom, like
like a Norman Bates Psycho-esque shower scene. No, that doesn't happen. And actually, I feel like once you get down to it at the end of the film and it reveals the killer probably would rather you don't get nude for them in most of the cases. But yeah, I mean, I think that again, the film title has that sort of like lurid quality to it that meets the film's content, I think. And ultimately, the film starts out with a pretty, affecting sequence of events where you see a doctor basically, and you're not quite sure at the beginning of the movie, like what is exactly going on, but it's basically a gynecologist who's rooting around and a woman who's basically got her legs up on some stirrups.
Good way to say root.
Yeah, exactly. If you're so honestly though, the whole thing,
probe just sitting there rooting her.
The whole idea at the beginning of the movie, though, that makes you immediately question things is the fact that your gynecologist is sitting there sweating like a pig. Like, you don't generally. I'm not a woman. I've never been through an exam like that, but I would assume you wouldn't want to look down and see your doctor sweating profusely.
Isn't that also why, she be wearing a hospital gown or something? Not just lying there with her bush out and everything.
I think that's your first, warning sign that things aren't really going great in this office. Where the doctor is sweating, he's pulling out a gigantic speculum, and literally, though, the film is when he's basically maneuvering the speculum, he's just like wiggling it around and stuff, and you're just like, that's probably not comfortable. Not only that, but the film does pan down at one point and just shows like there's a bunch of blood down there. Also probably not part of a normal process for the gynecology exam. So the indication is there, and apparently, I'm not an expert on Strip Nude for Your Killer, but I do have the Blu-ray, and there is both a tinted and untinted version of that opening sequence where it is tinted blue in some versions of the movie, where it's sort of like a very, very like turquoise-ish blue. So that whole sequence takes place in like this blue because it's meant to be like the starting point of the killer's motive. And then every time it flashes back, because throughout the film it does flash back to that sequence of events, it's all tinted blue. Or there's also an untinted version of it where you just get, flat out bush and you just, see things in all their glory without any tint to it. So, but yeah, I thought that was for me, I thought that was a pretty effective opening sequence of events where you see, the gynecologist doing that, and then she ends up dying. I kind of found it funny how nonchalant he was about the whole experience of just like, oh, damn. And I thought he was more concerned like, oh, no, she just woke up from like anesthesia. And, because she lets out like one scream and then kind of faints again. And he's like, oh, no. So he's kind of injecting her and giving her oxygen. And then he just makes a call and is like, I don't know. She went into cardiac arrest. She's dead now. She's dead. It wasn't anything we could do. So let's go drop her body off at the apartment and make sure it doesn't look like we've been doing anything untoward with her.
Well, I mean, because it's an illegal abortion. It's not like it's a Planned Parenthood that they're doing that at.
It's obvious. It's obvious that it's after hours. It's sort of like this backroom abortion thing that's going on. Black market style abortion.
Which makes it even funnier, too, because once she's dead, they're like, here, stuff her body in this tub. No one will know what happened. Like by 1976, they didn't have the technology to be like, my God, somebody mutilated that pussy. It's just like, they're like, she obviously drowned herself. Hysterical women, you know.
Yeah, or that like she had been pregnant at all. Like there's just no sign. Or the police didn't even bother to investigate. They just walked in.
Obviously, they weren't this Italian precinct. They're not they don't have the good coroner from L.A. Noir,
and they don't have John Saxon on.
Basically saying every time, I'll check for semen samples.
Yeah,
that's a dead goat that's lying there. I'll check for semen samples.
So that whole opening sequence, though, it does set up the remainder of the movie, which it again, and I think this is somewhat intentional. It's not very clear the connection between the rest of the movie and the murders that are taking place and that opening sequence. It's kind of leaves that vague on purpose for the movie to kind of suss out, first of all, who could be a suspect and why they would have a motive to kill these people that are working at a photography modeling company, basically. What do you think about the whole opening sequence after that, where you see them at the pool and you've got Carlo, who basically is stalking this woman who in a bathing suit, basically from the pool to the bar, taking pictures of her, and then gets her into a sauna where he can have sex with her?
That's just good old fashioned.
It's this,
that's just good old fashioned courting.
Italian 70s.
It's how you're courting. All your bros are by the pool. You're all wearing Speedos, and like you're all catcalling this lady who's walking around the pool with too much makeup and high heels, and
her walk is, let's be honest, her walk is ridiculous. No one walks like that. Like, it actually looks painful. Looks like a deer trying to stand up, like as a baby deer.
Listen,
it's ridiculous.
I was gonna say the biggest thing that I took away. It's always been a thing, but it's a good time to mention it. Things from the 70s that died, and I'm glad they died at death. The pencil thin lady eyebrows, creepy. Not a fan. These low cut, silk panties that just look awful. Like, just terrible. Like, who thought of that? While the men have either garish, Fruit of the Loom, giant white, whitey tighties, or these wonderful, well-cut Speedos. Like, what the hell was happening on the women's side of things? And, obviously the, wool turtlenecks, but this film is just like a sin of, like, fashion. But
yeah. And not only that, like right at the beginning, Lucia's bathing suit is like ill-fitting, which makes me feel like it would be uncomfortable to wear, like because their bathing suit bottoms are so.
Her ass cracks.
Her
ass cracks like just
they're
flying all around.
It's literally hanging out, and she's not even bending over. So think about like trying to do any sort of like maneuvers in the water. You'd be losing your drawers every time. Just seems really uncomfortable. But so basically, that's like, again, this is our first introduction to Carlo, who will be our main protagonist, dude. And I feel like the movie just makes him so unlikable for really no reason. Because he's supposed to be our like kind of our hero. Towards the end of the movie, it becomes clear like he's kind of the main guy, and the movie makes him super unlikable throughout. At the beginning of the movie, he basically coerces Lucia into the sauna, and I don't know if it's supposed to seem like it's consensual or not, but like it really almost reads like he's basically coercing a naive Lucia into like losing her bathing suit and then taking off his and then having sex with her.
My penis is in her vagina.
Because I like the whole.
What happened? You were lying there, and I just went, whoa, and,
And that's not the first or the last time he's a creepy dude. I mean, like throughout the movie, he's kind of a big creep. There's one point where his like kind of pseudo girlfriend Magda, who is Dweej Fanek in this movie, she is basically, it's the next day and she's already made him coffee after they've had sex the night before.
Oh,
She made him coffee. He's been a
piece of shit. Like, like, where's the milk? I don't have milk. You better put milk in my coffee. And then he's doing like, fucking headstands on her bed, balls naked. And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I gotta get blood back to my head after these exercises. And it's like,
super, like it's like now a guy who just walks around going, yeah, I do CrossFit. That's basically Carlo.
Yeah, I drink White Monsters.
Well, not only that too, but in the Italian dub, you don't get this really. Like, I mean, it's part of the subtitles basically. But he says you need milk. You got to like, it helps your corpuscles, right? Like your the small little capillaries that send blood. But which is a weird thing to say for any person anyway. If anybody's walking around talking about their corpuscles, I think you're like you have problems. Like immediately. For anybody like that, you should think this is our killer. This is walking around talking about corpuscles.
Or he's photography. He just moonlights as. He's actually a cardiologist. And like again, like not only is he a lecherous shithead, he's such a like piece of shit too. Because he's like, you gotta drink milk after sex. There was a study, in the physics. You wouldn't know that. You're a woman, and I'm not gonna bother explaining it to you.
Yeah, basically. That's how it's pretty much how he acts to every woman that he talks to in this movie. Like again, like you said, he's really like a true bastard to Magda because she doesn't have milk. Like literally, like such a straight up asshole. And she's basically saying, I don't know why the fuck you're taking milk in your coffee anyway. That's just straight up garbage. But
which is true. If you put milk in your coffee, you're
you're a heathen for sure. But then not only that, afterwards, he basically starts strangling her because she talks about one of the women that works at the photography company being murdered. And he just starts like strangling her for no reason. It's just a weird sequence of events. I don't know why this movie really, I don't know if it's meant to be like, oh, you should think maybe Carlo's the killer. But I don't think it really comes off that way. I think it just comes off as like, oh, Carlo's misogynistic. And then the way that the movie kind of comes off later on, making him try to look like a hero and like a good guy, it leaves a bad taste in your mouth after all the things that you see about Carlo. And not only that, I talked to you about this, but like he goes through this movie multiple times saying things like, oh, you could stand to lose a little weight. Oh, you got a little tummy on you there. It's sort of like the origin of negging, right? Like that's kind of like he kind of invented that. I don't know. I find Carlo a very weird character in this movie altogether.
I do think it's kind of, I would disagree. I do think it's kind of there because to be the red herring.
You think so?
So spoiler alert, he's not the killer. But because again, when you think about your cast here, there's like two people to choose from. And like, who's the killer? There's like literally only two people that enter your mind. At least mine. So I get it, but at the same time, and I also think I kind of understand why, like, it's because it's not just him that's an asshole and lecherous and a piece of shit. Everybody that works at this, Baroque boutique, photography, modeling agency, they're all incredulous pieces of shit.
Mm-hmm.
But it does, kind of hamper the whodunit part because if it's a slasher film, they're just cattle to be killed,
right?
Yep. They're just fodder. But because it's also a whodunit, your intrigue and the mystery is only going to go as far as you really care in the people who are getting killed and why they're getting killed.
Yeah.
So,
So are you saying
Eh.
so like you don't really care about anybody at the photo company?
no, they're
And-
all insufferable pieces of shit. I only like Magda because I was like, ooh, 1976. You go, girl with the pixie haircut.
yes, that's true.
You're
Ed-
you're ahead of your time there.
Edwige Fenech, she does generally not have a pixie cut like she does in this movie. She's pretty well known for her very like long dark hair, which is, basically the way that she shows up in almost every giallo film. So it's actually pretty unique for Strip Nude for Your Killer that she does have that pixie cut. But yeah, she kind of like reminds me of like Liza Minnelli in this movie. I don't know.
I'm gonna sing.
Right. Lucille too. But yeah, I do think that is interesting that she has that pixie haircut. You're right. But Magda is I think like the most likable character. Other people like again, the film kind of goes out of its way, and I don't know if it is the red herring element. If it is, it doesn't quite do enough to warrant it. But basically, like Maurizio, the guy who's married to Gisela, who runs the photo company, like he's a creep who basically kidnaps a woman back to his apartment or his house and tries to have sex with her until he can't, get it up and then has to have sex with a blow-up doll.
Well, the reason is those couches were atrocious.
True.
Did you see that decor? Horrendous.
I actually think the decor is pretty interesting though, like the various mirror ads
the beef eater gin.
Yeah,
and
I actually thought that's pretty cool though. Like,
no, it is, but those I was distracted like half the time in that little apartment with those couches being so gaudy and like gauche. But also too the whole Bondi and race to the apartment and
oh yeah, like the erratic driving that he does.
Yeah, it's kind of because it's not it's all done through POV, so you don't
yeah.
It's obviously not shot to feel like it's exciting and eccentric. It's sped up and stuff to make it feel like that. It just feels really.
And I think too that is one of the bigger issues with Strip Nude for Your Killer is the length of time the movie spends on really unnecessary content. Like you said, the weird erratic driving for no real reason, just 2 or 3 minutes spent in this dizzying drive for no it doesn't end up actually doing anything. Or what the film uses twice, which I think is basically 2 times too many, but if we're counting that, but is the fact that the killer is in that same apartment both times, kills Lucia first and uses the sort of water mechanic of turning on a faucet, and then she's like, oh, what's that? Why is there a faucet on? And she goes to investigate, and then they turn the faucet on in the bathroom and leads her into the bathroom, and then the killer's there. And then the same thing happens with Maurizio as well, literally the same thing, which I guess they were going for sort of just to draw the same conclusions between the two. But I feel like it ended up being 6 minutes too long of just a very, very plodding sequence of somebody walking from room to room, which should have been suspenseful, right? But it ends up having no suspense, and it's done twice. So it's very wasted moments of the film, which it already runs 100 minutes. It's just a little bit, I feel like Bianchi does not really quite get how to do a suspenseful, tension-filled sequence like that, and it just doesn't really work all that well.
There are some good, I would agree, but there are some good moments of suspense of some of the stalking and some of the setups to what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
There's obviously some good ideas, But the execution overall is, nothing to write home about. The violence and the kills are all very one note, and sometimes those stalking goes on for way too long because there's no interesting. Like, again, like the whole Maurizio kill is incredibly long-winded and incredibly unsuspenseful. The first one though, where he like kills like the first, like Mario, like
Mm-hmm.
it's like, oh, he realizes like who it is, which makes what's happening like, okay, so like somebody they know that was done better.
Mm-hmm.
So it's definitely a mixed bag in that aspect of kills and the stalking aspect.
And what do you think about I mean, you kind of said with the kills are kind of one note because they are all the same type of killing. It is basically just a knife stabbing, and they might be occasionally visceral in that, there's a few stabbings for one victim. But what do you think about the killer itself, which is, kind of an iconic look? It has the giallo style of having a black gloved killer, but that's because the killer is basically wearing a motorcycle jacket, like a whole outfit of motorcycle leather, from the helmet to the jacket that they wear to the leather gloves. It's all black motorcycle outfit. What do you think about the design of the killer?
I think that's really good. I think that's pretty cool. That's makes who it is like obviously ambiguous, because a lot of times in these giallos where it's somebody that's doing the killing, you don't ever see their presence or anything. You just see the razor and someone go like, no, 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 don't. And then like, like, oh, who could it be? But like here, like, it is kind of like Michael Myers or like, Jason, like calling card. So
Yeah,
I think it works.
And it can be very androgynous, which is pretty important for this movie overall. I think it's cool. I think it's like an interesting idea. I think it works really well to be kind of set the killer out as a like pretty distinctive. But I mean, again, I think that anytime it has sort of like it kind of fits into that giallo style of literally like the black glovedness, the POV perspective, I think the film works pretty well, but it also highlights how formulaic it tends to be. There's not much here that in my opinion sets this movie apart from any other really basic giallo of the time. I don't know. I don't think it does necessarily any of those elements better than some many other giallo films that released at the time. One thing it does have a lot of, though, is, as you said, many women prancing around basically naked. And if you like that, if you're interested in softcore elements like women and rolling around with men and just kissing them, and kind of simulating the element of sex, then you might be interested. But again, I feel like in the 70s, specifically France and Italy, tended to have these sort of things that they would consider erotic softcore, which I feel like maybe has gone by the wayside for us now. Like, I don't generally tend to find just like soft petting or fondling like this very titillating or erotic anymore.
Yeah. It's just like, what's the point?
Yeah, especially set to like the very generic 70s. Yeah. Like, and I think that might just be a thing of the times. Like, now we're subjected constantly to much more hardcore things than what you're seeing in these movies. But it was a very big thing at the time. And, I think in Strip Nude for Your Killer that some of those elements kind of go on too long of just like, fondling and kissing.
Oh, what a boner killer though! Like sitting someone's having their heavy petting, and then all of a sudden someone gets stabbed, and you're like halfway through baiting in the theater, like, oh god, like we're possible,
Very true.
Very mixed messages there,
So I guess we haven't actually talked about the killer's motive at all, but at the end of the movie, and again, this is another movie that really leaves everything to the last, literally 2 minutes. You know, basically there is, you know, no wrap up except for that final moment of the movie. Where, you know, basically there's a face off and then they pull the helmet off and it's revealed that it's actually Patrizia all along, who was a model at the agency, and, you know, it's kind of mentioned in passing at the beginning of the movie, and the movie really does not focus on her very much at all. To be honest, like, again, another main issue or complaint with something like this.
The film for 5 seconds.
Right, exactly. It's another complaint is like, it's a kind of a blink and you miss it. Like, you might be left wondering at the end of the movie, like, who the fuck is Patrizia? Like, I don't even. She was in like one scene, but
that opening. I was saying the opening where they're like, you know, where Carlo brings
Lucia, back to the photo, and he's basically like, yeah, get rid of that cow, Patrizia. Like, this is my model now. That's pretty much it. I mean, I think she might be in one other scene of them. Like, I think she's a model in one other scene, but.
So the connection is that she is the sister of the deceased model that died of the abortion in the opening.
Yep.
So going into all that, who were you thinking was the killer? Because for me, I was like, it's either Carlo or it's the model that was supposedly dead. Mm-hmm. Those were my only two that, like, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That would make any sense because, one, Carlos, an insufferable douchebag, you know, violent and, like, you know, slapping everybody around. And, you know, like, to see, like, you know, the person who was, you know, killed in the beginning to come back and be the killer would make sense. Mm-hmm. Because, again, the film doesn't give you any other leads to go off of that.
Not really, no. Yeah, I was thinking it could possibly be Gisela, which is like the owner of the photography company, played by, you know, the very one named Amanda, which, again, I love the fact that she just professionally went by Amanda. Like, just now, I guess they didn't have this really back then, but like, try to Google Amanda, the actress Amanda. That's very difficult. And so and again, like, it kind of reminds you now of how things have changed. Like, the same thing happens with, like, try to Google the band, right? It's a fun little experience to try to get what you're looking for. So I just find it funny that she just, you know, professionally went by Amanda. That's it. But yeah, I thought it could be Gisela because everybody was always talking about how much of a bitch she was. You know, and not only that, but any woman who wears a sparkly star as like a Marilyn Monroe style mole, suspect immediately. And at first when she came in, I was like, oh no, they forgot to like make up out her, you know, little piece of glitter or something that she has on her lip there. But nope, she intentionally has that little star thing that she puts on with like different colored stars.
Like, again, like the film is so aware of the fact that they don't have anybody for you to pick. Because at the end they're like, look, Stefano, is he the killer? Yeah. And it's like, who?
Yeah, right.
The guy that was accosted, you know, during the shoot, you know, for not, you know, put a French flag over, you know, your corpses, and he's like, I can't take this, you know. That's it, Stefano, you know.
Yeah, I agree. Like, at the end, it just kind of comes out of nowhere. Like, it must be Stefano. Mm-hmm. It is funny, and I think that the film does have, you know, a dearth of people that it can really point fingers at. So yeah, again, you're left with Carlo, or, you know, one of those other people that might be dead, but they, like, we thought were dead but weren't dead. And I think, you know, again, that's one of the issues with giallo films like this that I always have an issue with, is the fact that, like, it's really, you cannot kind of figure out who it is. The clues just aren't there for the audience to figure out who it could be. So there's really just no point in even trying to assume anything. And not only that, when you really stop and think about the twist, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense. So everybody in the photography company knew about this woman who had an abortion and that she died. And then everybody in this company starts being murdered. And no one is questioning, like, that's weird. Like we all have this like, dark skeleton in the closet that we've, been hiding. I just don't understand why we could all be targeted. It's kind of like the same idea of like, I know what you did last summer, except in this case, every character is oblivious to the fact, like, I don't know, she had an abortion, she died. I didn't do anything wrong here. And so, like, it's just funny because, again, the film is pretty hyper aware of that and just hides it from the audience. And there's really it doesn't even try to get around that fact. Not only that,
not only that, but when after our, heroes are triumphant and they're like talking about what happened and they very quick, like 1 minute thing as they're getting ready for more softcore porn. Magda's like, but yeah, I wonder whose baby it was. And the guy's like, I don't know, who the fuck knows? When it was obviously, him that impregnated her. And then it's just like, oh yeah, I'm on the pill. Yeah, well, I don't care. I'm going to put it in your ass. What? They like just play Curb Your Enthusiasm. Like, bum, 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 bum.
It's like the film was leading up to just that
that one
punchline.
That one.
Oh, he just wants to put it in her butt. Like, oh, that Carlo. He's such a character.
We're taking one from Last Tango in Paris here. Get the butter.
But like the other thing that I find really weird about the reveal is that Patricia's like, yeah, I was her sister, and like no one knows it.
Yeah,
everyone is just like, what? You worked at the photo company? You both were sisters? Like, I had no idea. And it's just like, I don't understand how that could go past everybody. So it's sort of like a suspension of disbelief that you like, whatever. All right, fine. I guess I'll believe that they didn't know that they were sisters. But at the same time, I just really like at the end how Carlo is really nonchalantly explaining it. Like, yeah, so her sister had a backroom abortion. We got rid of the body. And Patricia tried to kill us for it. And I don't really understand it. Like, she must have been crazy. And Magda's just like, yeah, you're right. Yeah, she must have been crazy. Like, she just completely goes along with this. It's like, there's no like reaction to the fact that like you guys hid the dead body. Like you were involved in a cover up of a woman that died during an abortion, and she's just fine with it. And like, yeah, let's have sex again. Like, great. It's just, I don't know. I don't know how to take the ending of the film. It is very, I know a lot of people have championed Strip Nude for Your Killer as sort of like a conversation about the dark elements of, illegal abortion, right? Like when abortion is not legalized, you have people, it's not like people stop getting abortions. They still go and get abortions. It's just that they do them unsafely. And this film kind of comments on that people would have to go to get an unsafe abortion. But at the same time, let's not pretend like Strip Nude for Your Killer is not super misogynistic. It doesn't really seem to have much to actually say about abortions. It's just kind of like...
It's a plot device.
Yeah, it's like the abortion happened, and then we took care of it.
You know how the 70s like to use rape?
Yep.
As a means of like plot devices that are unnecessary. It's the same thing with like Italian films. It's not just the rape. It's also like the abortion, backroom abortions, because Catholicism, So it's.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't characterize this movie as being like very prescient about abortions.
No, it's not prescient about anything. It's literally just like, again, it's a softcore porn. If it was trying to like be more like have a message, it wouldn't be focused on like everyone's just running around in their panties and their tits out and like,
I did want to before we do anything else though, I did want to send a shout out to whatever dude was playing the like those like bells that you shake and they make like that like the alarm sound, the one like
Yeah.
Though, because that guy got a lot of playing time at, that's generally not. I don't know what they're called. I've actually used them before in percussion, but whatever they're called, they were really used to full effect in this movie. I don't know who did the soundtrack. I can tell you it was not Ennio Morricone. That is
I still like
clear.
I still like it though. As one note as it is, and just like generic, like, police noir jazz it is, I do like it. Like ting 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 ting
And
ting
it definitely has a lot of sort of like soft core 70s porn elements too. Like this movie, you would be really understandable to think like if you heard it on in the background, you're like somebody's watching like a 70s porno. Because it does sound like that quite a bit. And even some of the dialogue that you might be listening to is basically just porno. Anything else you want to add that we haven't talked about this movie?
I think that's about it.
I think we kind of covered it. So on a scale of 0 to 10, blow up dolls that do the job, what would you give Strip Nude for Your Killer?
Give it a 5.5 out of 10. It's not a bad film. I was kind of wavering more towards a 6, but as we were kind of discussing it, changed my opinion. But like I'd say 5.5 out of 10. It's definitely not a bad film. It's definitely, there's nothing offensive about it. But there's nothing here like that really sticks out outside of the titillation aspects of it, having tits everywhere. It's a fine watch. For a giallo, for a mystery, I found it to be pretty boring at times. Just because there's no real interest and impetus for anyone. The characters are incredibly unlikable. The kills are not that interesting. But it's also not a terribly bad made film. I watched it in Italian. I saw like the Bloody Disgusting review gave it like 0.5 out of 5 and said it's like not even a film. It does have the hallmarks of a film. It was made. There was effort put into it. I think if you like these types of films, if you like giallos, give it a watch, see, what all the hubbub's about. But, as a film itself, as in like an interesting pulp, film, it's not that interesting. So 5.5 out of 10. It's not bad. Would I go out of my way to recommend it to other people? Probably not. But if you are a fan of it, give it a shot. See, what you think. You might like it more than I did.
Yeah, I'm kind of right there with you. I would probably, I think I would give this a 5.5. I was leaning a little bit towards 6, but maybe 5.5 for me as well. I think, it's a fairly standard giallo. It really doesn't do anything that interesting or different than, a lot of other giallo films. Besides the fact that it probably has a little bit more nudity than you would expect from most movies. Again, I think that it has some interesting ideas to it. They're not really fleshed out all that well. I think that Bianchi as a director is not very good with suspense. This is not if you're looking for a giallo film that is kind of artistic or stylish or even, has a bit of tension to it, this is not the movie for you. I really do find that a lot of the stalking elements and sequences like that are very tedious. The fact that it repeats the same type of stalking twice, I think is egregious. It definitely was, it was enough the first time. I did not need to see it a second time. It doesn't do a very good job of fulfilling that tension. I think the ending of the movie is like comical in the way that it just comes to a conclusion in the last 2 minutes, and it's just kind of waves it away. Like the conclusion really doesn't matter. It's almost like the killer doesn't matter at all, and they sort of just magically clean up everything that happened previously. I do find it weird that it sort of shoehorns in abortion as sort of like a contextual thematic element about it, and then kind of again doesn't really do anything with it. I don't think it's a champion of abortion. I don't think it's really trying to make much of a statement whatsoever. I think it's just kind of there for plot device and The film doesn't really know what to do with it. I do find that this movie is, like you said, it's not offensive in the fact that you can watch it and not really feel like you've watched something horrible. But at the same time, I do think it's pretty misogynistic, especially considering now, 50 years later almost. It's pretty, misogynistic, and I don't think that this is really the best that the giallo genre has to offer. But it is entertaining enough. It has enough going for it that, especially for, the male gaze, I think that it would, it's an interesting movie with a lot of different nudity in it. Edwige Fenech does an okay job. This is definitely not her best acting role, and she doesn't really get that much to do anyway. So yeah, 5.5 out of 10. It's okay. It's definitely not a recommended giallo film by any means. Just something, if you have the time and you're interested in something like this. It really does hit the formulaic notes of a giallo film, though. So we kind of talked about, I think, a couple of other movies that don't actually fit the giallo, like they are giallo, but they don't have necessarily all of those elements. This one has every single one of them, which is just, another interesting element to think about when you're watching Strip Nude for Your Killer. All right. I think for next time we're gonna try to do Superman, right?
Yeah, why not?
I think, and we want to. I want to see it.
I say we're gonna have a busy couple of months coming up, because
Yeah,
we got Superman, and then after that, the next week, Phoenician Scheme is going to be available.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to do that. Then we're going into Red Hot, whatever action month we're doing.
Yeah.
This time.
Yeah. And it's gonna be busy. So yeah, but I think we'll try to see Superman for the next time. Definitely want to check that out.
I heard it's woke.
Oh yeah, it's definitely woke. And we don't do woke around here on this podcast.
That's right. Go woke, go broke.
That's right. Well, we're already a broke podcast, so I
That's true.
guess we've always been woke. I don't know.
Give us some money, assholes.
Yeah, so we'll try to do Superman next time. Go out and see it.
You know what we should do? Instead, we should just do all of the Ben Shapiro movies instead.
Yeah.
To show what great filmmaking is going on over at the Daily Wire.
That's right. All right, so hope you enjoyed our episode on Strip Nude for Your Killer. Hope you come back for Superman and our packed schedule that's coming up pretty soon. You can basically subscribe on any podcast app you can think of. We're on Apple Podcasts, our home base at Spotify, whatever you use, we're on it. So subscribe and leave us a nice review. We're on Facebook and Blue Sky. You can search for us on there, Blood and Black Rum Podcast. We have an email address at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com where you can write to us. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what movies you want us to cover. We'll keep that in consideration. And you can also donate to us on our Patreon page or at Spotify. Anything you donate goes back towards beer, so we appreciate that in advance. Again, thanks for listening to our episode on Strip Nude for Your Killer. Hope you agree with us. If you don't, let us know. Let us know why this is your favorite giallo film. Have a great summer. Hopefully you're staying cool. So tune in next time, hopefully for Superman. And until then,
take care. And maybe instead we'll just do Batman v Superman again.
Do it again. That's right.